Hey guys, what's up? Faramar here. Going to go over the new feral rotation. Just gonna give some quick thoughts on the 8.1 patch. I've only done a heroic old deer run. I have not done a mythic old deer or anything like that, which I hate to say it, but I don't think ferals are actually gonna be viable enough for mythic old deer at the moment. The damage felt very weak. The rotation feels very dumbed down. Overall, not happy with the rework. A little bummed out. I had high hopes. I felt like the rework was going to be pretty great. PvP, it might be. I've only done a little bit of PvP since the patch started. I've not done any on stream yet, but I will be setting up some games later this week in order to kind of flex that. See how my theories on the PvP talents are going to be, things like that. But right now, feeling a little underwhelmed with the changes. PvE, the damage is low, right? And the rotation feels dumbed down. I don't know about you guys. I feel like Feral was more fun when the rotation was more complex. But as it stands right now, the most optimal rotation is the simplest rotation, which kind of rubs me in the wrong direction. I don't like that. I liked it before when Feral had a complex spec that you could run to ensure that you were getting the most damage possible, right? But took a little bit more skill to do. Now it kind of feels like I wish I could get this. There we go. Now it kind of feels like you have to go the simpler spec to do the most output. And this might be a tuning thing. It doesn't feel like the complex spec that I was really hoping for was tested very well. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the Azurite traits that are recommended for PvE, particularly raiding old deer. I will go over the spec that I am using for Mythic Plus, and I will go over my my rotation with you guys in real time. So currently, for old deer, you've got you're gonna be running Sabertooth, right? So this is your buff on your Ferocious Bite and increased your rip duration. Okay, this outperforms Lunar Inspiration currently, so that's one less thing you have to upkeep, right? Two less things, in fact, because now you only have to worry about Ferocious Bite, you don't have to worry about putting your rips up anymore, and you don't have to worry about using your Lunar Inspiration. So, strictly Sabertooth. This row doesn't matter. I'm using Wild Charge in most fights. I think the only fight I'm using Tiger's Dash is... Actually, I didn't use it at all this raid, but you can use it in fights like Zol or Mithrax if you need to run things out really fast. This row doesn't matter a whole lot, but I'm running Balance Affinity for the additional range. This row doesn't matter as well unless you're versing Mithrax, in which you want Typhoon to get teammates out. The other two don't really matter. Mighty Bash is good against Zekvoz ads. You can stun them so they can't cast. Other than that, there isn't really much use for this row in Old Year. Row 75, the most performant row, the most performant talent I found in this row was Soul of the Forest. I think it feels the smoothest. It feels like it gives more energy regen than Savage Roar, and because of that, you get more Ferocious Bites off. Therefore, the 5% increased damage on this, as opposed to the 10%, it feels better, right? And you don't have another thing to upkeep. So now I'll give some finishing comments in a second. On this row, I'm running Brutal Slash. It feels good to be in the rotation. It's a cheaper, more powerful shred, basically. Well, swipe, but it acts like shred in single target situations, and then it gives you the AoE effect when you have multi-targets, right? So this is just the best overall. in this row. Although this is an AoE dedicated row, and I'll go over what the other two are used for later. And in this row, Blood Talons is the performer, as I expected. Moment of Clarity is good, because now you're using Brutal Slash a lot more, but it just, Blood Talons it just feels better. Okay, so the rotation. Now, the only thing you have to worry about the whole fight is getting your initial bleeds and using Ferocious Bite. The rotation is simply initial bleeds, Brutal Slash, your way to victory, Ferocious Bite when you have 5 combos. It's very simple. There's really not much skill involved, and it's a little frustrating for me. I think they need to ramp up the damage of Lunar Inspiration and ramp up Savage Roar, whether that's the energy regen or the damage, something to make it worth taking over Soul of the Forest. I enjoy passive abilities, but I think in PvE, I think the more complex the rotation, the more output you should have, and that's simply not the case. Alright, so your Azerite traits that you're going to run for PvE is going to be triple Jungle's Fury. This is the trait that will increase your critical strike rate by roughly 10% per trait. Or is it 10%? I think they actually nerfed it. So ignore that 5% that I'm actually getting from... We'll change that. So... Okay, yeah, they nerfed it. Okay, so in PTR, Jungle's Fury was giving roughly like 800 crit strike rating, which is 10%. These are giving roughly, and that's a 375 piece, 390 piece, it's giving 530. So it's roughly, what was that, 21% that it's giving, so like 7% per trait. So triple of those, and yes, I've checked, it's actually better than running any Archive of the Titans in PvE. Something that I did wing, and this was kind of just going off my gut for the PTR, or from the PTR, is I rerolled most of my gear. As much gear as I could, I rerolled to Mastery, primary stat, and then Haste is my go-to secondary stat for PvE. Right now, I'm still working on transitioning my gear to that, but that's what I'm going for, is Mastery primary stat and Haste secondary stat. Any of the guide websites right now, they don't have the updated stat weights. I think this is what it's going to be. I may be wrong, but this is, you know. Okay. So, we'll go ahead and go over the rotation then. Feel free, if you have any questions or anything, to type in chat. So the first thing you want to start with, same as previous, there's one difference to the rotation opener, and I'll go over that in a second. So you'll open with your Blood Talons, right? And then you'll go stealth. Pre-pot before you go stealth, if you can. And then you're going to simply open with a Rake. Then you're going to Tiger's Fury into a Rip immediately, right? And then, oh, I didn't mean to hit that. Old muscle memory. Alright, give me a second here. So let me spin these points real quick. Okay, so you're going to start with a regrowth to get your Blood Talons. Then you're going to go, you're going to open with a Rake, and then you're going to Rip immediately. You're going to pop Berserk, or sorry, you're going to Tiger's Fury with your Rip, then you're going to pop Berserk, then you're going to Brutal Slash to 5 combo points, and you're going to Bite immediately. And the reason you want to do this is because your Rake now deals the same amount of damage per tick for any amount of combo points spent. The only difference is, depending on how many combo points you spend, it increases the duration. So, getting the initial 8, you get 12, I think, if your Rake crits, but 1 combo point Rip is 8 seconds, which is just enough time for you to get a Ferocious Bite off, which will refresh it all the way up to like a 20-something second Rip. So that's basically the thing that I found is most different about the rotation right now, other than it's simplified. So you'll open with that, right, into the Tiger's Fury Rip, then you'll go ahead and use that, or Berserk, sorry, then you'll Brutal Slash as much as you can until you're at it, and then you'll bite. And that puts the full duration rip. Now, not only did you not have to wait for your Blood Talons, and then cast in order to get an empowered rip, right? You, you just, right off the bat, your Rake and your Rip are empowered. So, something else to keep in mind during your rotation is you typically want to keep your Brutal Slashes spent. So you don't want lingering Brutal Slashes. Unless you have 2 and you've got upcoming Blood Talons, in which you want to save 2 stacks, then you can Blood Talons and get 2 empowered Brutal Slashes. Another trick that is kind of, this was a previous thing as well, is if you notice your Brutal Slash, it's going to deal way, it's going to deal, or cost way less energy. So what you can do is when you get clear casting, you shouldn't use that on a Brutal Slash. You should use that on a Shred, because it's going to cost more energy. Then you can resume with Brutal Slash. If you accidentally use a Brutal Slash because a clear casting pops up, it's no big deal. It's just kind of leveraging your mana, or your energy in the most efficient way. So, yeah, that's basically the rotation. It's very simple now, very dumbed down. I don't particularly like that. I like the more complex feral rotation. It definitely feels like they were casualizing the class, at least in PvE. In PvP, it's way more complex now, and that's simply because they added some more depth with the new PvP talents. But for PvE, this is basically it. You average about 14k DPS with my gear, which is I'm at 380 eye level. I'm also not optimized. I don't have full mastery haste gear, so that's something to keep in mind as well. As you get more mastery, as you get more haste, then you'll be better off. I just don't think that the gear is going to be weighted the same in the previous patch where it was haste crit. So that's something to keep in mind. Something I'll go over real quick, and I'll be posting a Keystone dungeon or 2 videos. Maybe I'll do one for each new dungeon, or not new dungeon, but each dungeon. I'll do like a 10 plus or something. Maybe a 15. It depends on if ferals are, you know, more accepted in the Keystone community right now. It's been kind of a challenge to just get my IO score up to like 1k. It's very hard to find groups as a feral druid. One trick that you can do is if you get into a group, right, you just go boomkin. You just sit in your boomkin form until the keystone starts. That's a little shady. Maybe it's a little shady thing to do, but sometimes it fools them and they'll leave you in the group. So, anyway, dungeon. The dungeon talents that you're going to be running is you're going to be running Predator. You're going to be, this row doesn't matter. I'm probably just going to be sticking with Wild Charge. This row doesn't matter as well. Probably Balance Affinity or Resto Affinity. It depends on how confident your healer is. Row 60 only matters in a couple of dungeons. King's Rest, you always want to take Mass Entanglement. In other situations, I mostly take Mighty Bash. On row 75, you're going to be taking Soul of the Forest. You can take Incarn, but I think Soul of the Forest is just a little bit more performant right now. And then row 90, Primal Wrath is going to be the go-to. I can't think of a dungeon that's actually better to take Brutal Slash right now. Primal Wrath is a pretty good ability, so kudos to Blizzard on that one. I think it's a very good and needed adjustment for feral druids. Another thing to note is it has flat damage, so if you have trouble doing an AoE fight and you are you know, normally you wait until the last 4 seconds of rip to reapply. With this ability, if you're spamming AoE, you spam this ability every time you have 5 combo points, because it's going to give you Blood Talons for your swipes and your thrashes, and then it also does flat damage. So it's very, very powerful ability. And then Blood Talons is going to be the go-to. You can take Moment of Clarity if you want, but I recommend if you're going to take Moment of Clarity that you take Scent of Blood. It just synergizes a little bit better, but right now I would take Blood Talons with Primal Wrath. So, anyways, that's my Keystone Dungeon summary. I will be posting some Keystone Dungeons I'll be doing. I will try and get in some 15s in order to kind of, you know, legitimize, I guess, the runs. If I can't, I will do the best I can for you guys. But anyways, that's my 8.1 Feral guide for PvE. PvP guide will be coming out later this week. I will be getting some games in tomorrow and on Friday, and maybe over the weekend. We'll see if my team can get on. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will be posting this to YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe. If you are on Twitch right now, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, follow the Twitch channel. Whatever you want. I stream pretty much everything feral, so yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.